She always thought she was safe in her small apartment. It wasn't fancy, just a quiet one-bedroom tucked at the end of a narrow hallway, where neighbors mostly kept to themselves. But safety has a strange way of disappearing when the ordinary suddenly feels wrong. And for Anna, it began with something so simple, so unsettling, that she couldn't ignore it. Every single morning, her front door was locked from the outside. At first, she brushed it off. Maybe she was too tired and had forgotten locking it herself. Maybe the old door had some kind of glitchy mechanism. But the truth nagged at her. She lived alone. No one else had a key. And still, each morning when she reached for the knob, she found herself trapped inside until she manually unlocked it. The thought gnawed at her during the day, and at night it kept her awake, listening to every creak in the hallway, every echo of footsteps that might not even be there. Her friends told her she was being paranoid. "It's just in your head," one laughed over coffee. But Anna knew better. She started taking photos of the lock before bed, proof for herself that it was left open. Yet when the sun rose, the lock was always turned, always sealed from the other side. The evidence was right in front of her, but the explanation was nowhere to be found. By the third week, her nerves were unraveling. She thought about calling the landlord, maybe even the police, but how could she explain something that sounded so impossible? How could she convince them that someone, or something, was locking her inside her own home without leaving a single trace? And then came a night she woke up at 3 a.m. to the faint sound of metal shifting just outside her door. She froze in bed, holding her breath, heart pounding in her chest. There was again the unmistakable click of the lock sliding into place. If she was inside, then who was standing on the other side? Anna didn't sleep the rest of that night. She sat in the corner of her bedroom, knees pulled to her chest, staring at the door as though it might move on its own. The silence felt heavy, broken only by the sound of her breathing. She told herself she would wait until morning. That daylight would make sense of everything. But even when the sun rose and the apartment filled with pale light, the lock was turned again, locked from the outside. Her mind began circling back through every detail of her life in the weeks before this started. She had moved into the building only 3 months ago, grateful to find a place within her budget. The neighborhood wasn't perfect, but it was quiet enough, and she had told herself she'd finally found a little independence. She worked long hours at a small bookstore downtown, came home to cook simple dinners, and spent evenings reading by the soft yellow lamp in her living room. A routine life. Normal. Safe. Or at least it should have been. The more she thought about it, the more questions gnawed at her. Who would want to lock her in? Was it some kind of twisted prank by a neighbor? She hardly knew the people who lived next door. A man in his 50s, always in a hurry, barely said hello. A young woman across the hall, polite but distant. None of them gave off the feeling of someone who would sneak around in the middle of the night, turning locks to trap her inside. Still, Anna couldn't shake the sense that she was being watched. She began noticing things she hadn't before. The faint smell of cigarettes lingering outside her door, though no one in the building smoked. The creak of footsteps at odd hours in the hallway. The way her doormat seemed slightly out of place when she woke up in the morning. Little details that didn't mean much on their own, but together they formed a picture she didn't want to see. Her anxiety seeped into her daily life. At work, she caught herself glancing at the store's front window, half expecting someone to be standing there, watching her through the glass. She stopped going out with friends, claiming she was tired, but the truth was simpler. She didn't want to leave her apartment unattended. And yet, being inside didn't feel safe anymore either. The real breaking point came one evening as she was getting ready for bed. She took a photo of the lock like she always did, proof that it was unlocked. But this time, she slid the chain across too, thinking it would give her a sliver of extra control. Hours later, she woke to a sound that chilled her blood. The chain rattling, straining, as though someone on the other side was testing it. Her breath caught in her throat. She didn't dare move. Whoever, or whatever, was out there wasn't trying to keep her safe. They were trying to keep her in. Anna tried to convince herself the rattling chain was a dream. Maybe she'd imagined it, a trick of half sleep and her own paranoia. But the truth weighed heavy. Dreams don't leave the chain swaying gently in its latch when you turn on the light. The next morning, she forced herself to act normal. She put on makeup, tied her hair neatly, walked to work like nothing was wrong. But the bookstore felt different. Customers' faces blurred into the background. Every glance from a stranger seemed a second too long. Every smile had something behind it she couldn't trust. By lunchtime, she had convinced herself someone was following her. That's when Mark appeared again. He was a regular at the store, mid-30s, always browsing the crime section, but never buying much. He struck up easy conversations, harmless enough. But today, when he leaned on the counter and asked if she was sleeping any better lately, Anna froze. She'd never told him about her insomnia. She'd never told anyone outside her circle of friends. "Why would you ask that?" she said, trying to keep her voice light. Mark only smiled, tapping the cover of a true crime book he held. "You just look tired. Don't worry, I notice details. It's a habit of mine." He winked, then left without buying the book. That night, Anna double-checked every lock, pulled the chain tight, even pushed a chair beneath the handle. Still, she lay awake, thoughts racing. Was she imagining things? Had Mark really meant anything by his comment? She thought about calling her best friend, Leah, but they hadn't spoken in weeks, not since Anna canceled their dinner plans for the third time. Maybe Leah would just tell her she needed therapy. Maybe she did. But paranoia has a way of feeding itself. The following evening, Anna discovered something chilling. Faint marks on the outside of her doorframe, tiny scratches around the lock, almost like someone had been tampering with it. She crouched there for a long time, fingertips brushing the grooves, her chest tight with fear. Whoever was doing this wanted her to notice. And then another complication emerged. Her landlord, Mr. Cohen, slipped a notice under her door about routine maintenance scheduled for the building. The wording was vague, the date left open. She tried calling him, but the number went straight to voicemail. That night, the sounds returned, this time not just at her door, but faint footsteps on the ceiling, as though someone was moving in the empty apartment above. Anna found herself facing a moral dilemma. Should she report everything to the police, risk being dismissed as paranoid, or keep silent and gather proof on her own? Part of her feared that by speaking up, she'd make herself more of a target. Another part wondered if, by staying quiet, she was already giving whoever was tormenting her exactly what they wanted. Lying in the dark, she realized something she hadn't admitted until now. This wasn't just about the locks anymore. Someone was inside her life, pulling the strings, waiting for the moment she would break. The nights grew heavier, the silence more suffocating. Anna no longer trusted sleep. She moved from room to room, checking locks, pressing her ear to the door, listening for the faint scrape of shoes in the hallway. Each sound carried weight now. Each shadow hinted at someone just beyond her reach. And then, another note, slipped under her door in the dead of night. She almost stepped on it the next morning. Plain white paper, a single sentence written in neat block letters. Stay inside. It's safer that way. Her hands trembled as she read it again and again. Who knew where she lived? Who knew her routine well enough to leave this? The landlord? A neighbor? Mark? She forced herself to confront him the next time he came into the bookstore. "You left a note at my apartment," she blurted, the words spilling out faster than she could stop them. Mark tilted his head, confused, or maybe pretending. "What note?" he asked calmly. "I don't even know where you live." But his eyes lingered on hers a second too long. She couldn't tell if it was pity or amusement. Before she could say more, a customer interrupted, and Mark slipped away like nothing had happened. That night, the sounds above her grew louder. Furniture dragging, heavy footsteps pacing. But the apartment above hers had been vacant for months. She remembered the landlord saying no one wanted it because of the constant plumbing issues. She climbed the stairs, heart racing, and pressed her ear to the door. Silence. She knocked once. No answer. But just as she turned to leave, 3 deliberate knocks came back from the other side. She ran. Her days spiraled after that. She started leaving her phone's camera recording through the night, desperate for evidence. The footage caught nothing unusual, until one morning, she found the file corrupted, frozen on a single blurry frame of her front door. The timestamp showed 3:17 a.m., and in that frame, just for a second, A shadow stretched long across the crack beneath the door. Someone had been standing there, watching. Her friend Leah finally came over, worried after weeks of distant texts. Anna poured out everything: the notes, the locks, the noises upstairs. Leah frowned but didn't laugh. She admitted something Anna hadn't known. Years ago, another tenant in the building had complained of similar things. Locks tampered with, strange noises, a constant sense of being watched. Then one day, that tenant had vanished. The landlord claimed she moved out suddenly, but no forwarding address was ever given. The pieces clicked together like teeth of a trap. Whoever, or whatever, was doing this had been doing it long before Anna moved in. That night, Anna resolved to stay awake and catch them. She brewed coffee, sat by the door with every light off, and waited. The building settled into silence. Midnight passed. 1 o'clock. 2. Her eyelids grew heavy. And then, a metallic scrape. The turn of her lock. Slow, deliberate. The chain rattled once. Then again. And then a voice, low and calm, whispered through the crack in the door. "Why won't you just let me in?" Anna froze at the sound of the voice. It wasn't angry. It wasn't threatening. It was calm, almost pleading. That made it worse. She pressed her back against the wall, every nerve in her body screaming to stay quiet. If she answered, she feared she might give this unseen figure exactly what they wanted. The whisper came again, softer. "Anna, you don't remember me, do you?" Her blood ran cold. Whoever stood outside not only knew her name, but claimed to know her past. She hadn't told anyone in the building her full name, not even her landlord. She lunged for her phone and dialed Leah. Whispering fast, she begged her to come over. But Leah's tone on the other end wasn't what she expected. It was steady, deliberate. "Anna, listen to me. Don't open the door. Don't move. I'm on my way." Relief washed over her until she glanced down at the floor. Another slip of paper had been pushed under the door. Her hand shook as she unfolded it. The message was scrawled in jagged writing. "Leah can't help you. She's the one who let me in." Her stomach twisted. Was this another manipulation? Some cruel trick to isolate her further? Or had Leah betrayed her in a way she couldn't begin to understand? Her mind reeled back to the conversation they'd had earlier, the story of the vanished tenant, the oddly specific details Leah claimed to know. How had she learned all of that? And why had she waited until now to share it? The pounding on the door snapped her back. Not loud, not violent, just steady, like a patient knock that promised there was no rush. Whoever it was, they had time. Anna's desperation surged. She pulled her phone back to her ear, but the line was dead. Silence. Not even static. The call had ended. In that moment, a thought tore through her. What if Leah wasn't coming to save her at all? What if Leah had been guiding her toward this exact trap, piece by piece, story by story? And then, the sound of keys jingling on the other side. Keys. The unmistakable scrape of metal fitting into her lock. Whoever was out there didn't just know her name. They had access. The chair beneath the handle rattled. The chain strained. Anna's heart raced, caught between two truths. Open the door and face whoever, or whatever, was waiting, or stay inside and risk that she was already surrounded. This wasn't just a game of fear anymore. It was betrayal. And the person she thought she could trust most might be the one who had been against her all along. The key turned in the lock. Slow, deliberate. The chair under the handle scraped forward, inch by inch, as the unseen intruder pressed harder. Anna pressed her weight against the door, heart hammering so hard it drowned out everything else. "Stop," she screamed. Her voice cracked, but she didn't care. The rattling ceased. For a breathless moment, there was silence. Then, the voice again. Calm, almost tender. "Anna, I just want to come home." Home. The word sent a chill through her spine. She didn't know this person. At least, she thought she didn't. The chair slid violently, metal straining as the chain nearly gave way. Panic surged, and Anna darted into the kitchen, grabbing the heaviest pan she could find. If the door opened, she would fight. She had no choice. And then 3 sharp knocks echoed, not from the front door, but from inside the apartment above. The noise was so loud it shook the light fixtures. Whoever was at her door wasn't alone. She froze, torn between two directions, when the front door suddenly swung open with a crash. The chain snapped. Anna raised the pan, ready, but stopped cold. It wasn't Mark. It wasn't her landlord. It was Leah. Her best friend stood in the doorway, breathing hard, keys dangling from her hand. "Anna," she said quickly, eyes wide. "You have to come with me now." But something in her expression was off. Too calm, too certain. Anna's eyes darted to Leah's hand. The keys. How did Leah have them? The truth hit her all at once. Leah hadn't just known too much. She hadn't just found out about the tenant who vanished. She had been part of it all along. "No," Anna whispered, shaking her head. "It's you." Leah stepped forward, voice lowering. "You're safer inside, Anna. Don't you see? That's why we locked the doors. To keep you here. To keep you from leaving." Anna backed away, chest tightening. Memories flickered, her constant exhaustion, the feeling of being watched, the corrupted footage. None of it was random. Leah had been feeding the fear, weaving the story until Anna doubted herself. "But why?" Anna demanded, her voice breaking. Leah's eyes softened in a way that was almost worse than anger. "Because last time you left, and you forgot me." The words struck like ice. Anna's mind reeled. Last time? What did that mean? Before she could answer, a thunderous crash came from the ceiling. Dust rained down. The apartment above shook violently. Leah spun toward the sound, her calmness faltering. Anna seized her chance. She swung the pan, catching Leah off guard, and bolted through the open door into the hallway. She didn't stop running until she was outside in the cold night air, lungs burning. She looked back once at the building, silent, looming, windows dark as eyes. For the first time, the lock was behind her. But as she fumbled with her phone, her blood ran cold. On the screen was a new text. No number, just one line. "You can run, but you'll always come home." Anna backed away, chest tightening. Memories flickered, her constant exhaustion, the feeling of being watched, the corrupted footage. None of it was random. Leah had been feeding the fear, weaving the story until Anna doubted herself. "But why?" Anna demanded, her voice breaking. Leah's eyes softened in a way that was almost worse than anger. "Because last time you left, and you forgot me." The words struck like ice. Anna's mind reeled. Last time? What did that mean? Before she could answer, a thunderous crash came from the ceiling. Dust rained down. The apartment above shook violently. Leah spun toward the sound, her calmness faltering. Anna seized her chance. She swung the pan, catching Leah off guard, and bolted through the open door into the hallway. She didn't stop running until she was outside in the cold night air, lungs burning. She looked back once at the building, silent, looming, windows dark as eyes. For the first time, the lock was behind her. But as she fumbled with her phone, her blood ran cold. On the screen was a new text. No number, just one line. "You can run, but you'll always come home." Anna backed away, chest tightening. Memories flickered, her constant exhaustion, the feeling of being watched, the corrupted footage. None of it was random. Leah had been feeding the fear, weaving the story until Anna doubted herself. "But why?" Anna demanded, her voice breaking. Leah's eyes softened in a way that was almost worse than anger. "Because last time you left, and you forgot me." The words struck like ice. Anna's mind reeled. Last time? What did that mean? Before she could answer, a thunderous crash came from the ceiling. Dust rained down. The apartment above shook violently. Leah spun toward the sound, her calmness faltering. Anna seized her chance. She swung the pan, catching Leah off guard, and bolted through the open door into the hallway. She didn't stop running until she was outside in the cold night air, lungs burning. She looked back once at the building, silent, looming, windows dark as eyes. For the first time, the lock was behind her. But as she fumbled with her phone, her blood ran cold. On the screen was a new text. No number, just one line. "You can run, but you'll always come home."